Hello. Okay, let's check out the finished graphic before we start a new project. So we have this shape element that will animate in and rotate into place, and then our title element will animate in. And the effect is that the title element appears to pass through the shape element. Then the graphic's going to scale up slightly before the shape element animates back out and swallows the title element on the way. I put a link in the description for you to check out the source graphic. I think this time around I got pretty close to reproducing just the general look and feel of the After Effects graphic. It turned out to be a lot easier than I expected it to be. It's really, as you're going to see, it's just a matter of applying the align to behavior and linking a couple of groups together. Okay, so let's get busy and get into the project. Okay, so this is just a 5-second project. It's 1920 by 1080 at 30 frames a second. So the first thing we're going to do is get our title in there and animate it. So just rename this group as title. I'll grab the text tool and add the title text. So the font I'm using, I'm not sure about the pronunciation, it's Bibas Nue, and we want the font size to be 180. I'm quite sure this is exactly the same font that is used in the After Effects source graphic. If it's not, it's almost identical. So I'll center the alignment and I'll just grab the anchor point and bring that into the middle, and then reset the X and Y position values. Okay, so that's our title element, and now we're ready to animate it to come in. So let's get it playhead to 20 frames. Use I on the keyboard to trim the text to the playhead, and we're going to set the X value here at minus 546 and set a keyframe, and then bring the playhead forward to 1 second 25 frames and set the X position value at 110. So now our title animates in over 1 second 25 frames, and we want it to rush in and then ease into position. So I'm going to grab the curve and try and make that happen. I'm holding shift on my keyboard as I play with these curves to make sure they don't go too far, otherwise the text will arrive and then start drifting back. How about this? Okay, that'll do for now. So that's all the title element really has to do in this one. From here it's all a matter of creating that shape element. So I'll just turn off the titles for now, and I'm going to add a new group, and I'll call this group upper, and in this group I'm going to add a shape. So holding shift and option, I'm dragging out the shape into this group. I'll come to the inspector in geometry and make sure the size is set to 200. Now I'll come into style. I'm going to set the outline width to 20. I'll turn off the fill and I'll give the outline a color. I'm going to give it a square joint, and I'll set the start cap and the end cap to none. So now I'll come into properties and I'm going to reset the X and Y position, and then I'll come into rotation. I want the Z rotation at 45. And I'll just rename this to front half, and now I'm going to duplicate this group and I'll drop the copy of the group down 2 layers so that it sits under the title group, and I'm going to rename this as lower and rename this shape as front full, and I'll turn that front full shape off for now, and I'll come back to the upper group and select that shape there that I just renamed to front half. So I'm going to right click and choose convert to points. Then I'm going to drag around this point to select it and delete it, and then I'll right click on the shape and choose, so grab this point and right click on it and choose open curve. So now we have a half a shape sitting on top of the text and a full shape sitting under the text. So that gives us this effect that the title text is going to pass through the shape element. Okay, I'll get these titles turned off again. What I want to do now is I'm going to link the Y rotation and the X position of the lower shape to the upper shape. So select that lower group, not the shape, select the group and come to properties, and for the X position in the drop down menu choose add parameter behavior link and add the upper group as the source. And select the lower group again and come into the rotation and grab the Y rotation value. Drop down the menu, choose add parameter behavior link, and again the upper group as the source. So now whatever we do with the upper group, the lower group is going to follow with the X position and the Y rotation. Okay, so now we want to animate this shape element. So we want the playhead to 1 second 20 frames, and we want the upper group selected, and come to properties, and at the X value we want -205. Set a keyframe there for the X value, and for the Y rotation value set a keyframe here as well. So now bring the playhead back to the start and set an X value of 1415 and a Y rotation value of 230. So if I pull the canvas back and turn on full view area settings, we can see the element of the canvas here. And it animates and rotates. So now we're going to adjust the rotations. So select the upper group. In the keyframe editor, turn off the X group. Bring the playhead to the 16th frame. And in the inspector properties, for the Y rotation, we're going to set this value at 78. And I'm going to grab this handle, change interpolation to Bezier, break the tangent and pull this curve down. Now I'll select the X curve and turn that back on and turn the Y curve off, and break the tangent on these handles and adjust the curve so that the shape is rushing in and then easing into place, which should coincide with the rotation. Okay, maybe get that coming in a bit faster. Okay, I think that'll do it. So I'll turn the titles back on. Okay, that'll do. So now the next step is to put the mask in place. So to help me do that, I'm going to bring down some guides. If you don't have your rulers on, you can come into the menu, view, show rulers. So I'll just pull the canvas, pull down a couple of guides here to sit right in the inside of the shape element. And I'm going to pull back the canvas, and now with the title group selected, I'm going to grab the Bezier tool and add a shape like this. So this is going to become our mask. We want this shape to follow the square shape as it comes in, but not immediately. So with the Bezier shape selected, I'm going to come to Behaviors and select Basic Motion, Align To, and use the upper group as the source. We want this top selection here to be right and the bottom one to be center. So now this shape element, this Bezier shape that's going to be our mask, is going to follow the square shape like this. But what we want that to kick in on the 20th frame and not before. So bring your playhead to 20 frames and select that Align To Behavior and hit I on your keyboard to trim it to that point. So before there, it's just dormant. Alright, so select now the text element, right click, add an image mask, and drop that Bezier shape in there as the source, and set the blend mode to subtract. And come into the inspector, select that Align To Behavior, come into the inspector. We want to grab this X offset and bring it back just a bit to create a cleaner mask there. Right, I'll just clear the guides, resize the canvas, and let's see how we're looking. Okay, so we've got the basic effect there, and now it's just a matter of having this graphic animate out. So to do that, we want the shape here keyframed out starting from the 3 second 20 frame mark. So bring your playhead to 3 seconds 20 frames, grab the upper group, come to properties, set another keyframe for the exposition, bring the playhead to 4 seconds 20 and drag that shape element off the canvas. So in keeping with the source graphic, the After Effects source graphic, we want this animation out to kind of begin slowly and then accelerate. And as you know, I'm not at all a master of curves, so we'll try and get that happening. Going to break a tangent on this curve and pull it right down. Basically, that's close enough to what we want. With more time and more tweaking, you can get it to look better. So the final thing that has to happen now is before this shape element animates out, we want the whole graphic to scale up slightly. So I'm going to select close up the groups, all 3 groups, and I'll add a new group, and I'll just call this group the graphic, and I'm going to place these 3 groups into this main group, and I'll bring the playhead to 2 seconds, and with the new group selected, I'm going to set a keyframe for the scale, and I'll bring the playhead forward to 3 seconds 20 frames and increase that scale by 5%. And I'll drag out to select this curve and select ease both. So we've got the mask slightly off point here. I'm just going to come back into the title group, grab that Bezier, grab that Align to, and bring that offset forward just a touch. And we're done. So I think if you go to the link in the description and check out the source graphic, I think we get pretty close to the overall look. Not bad for a couple of days work. Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope this was useful for your future projects.